The aspirations of all the people have become a single beam of light. Their enthusiasm has come together to kindle the flame of peace.
Opposition. And that, of course, means that Gyeongbuk Science High School students, 10th graders Shin Gyu-min and Yu Jae-sang, have been selecting the opening government.
Actually, or even though the competition is better than improving this. We believe that there needs to be a policy in action which makes sure that
Okay, those were your 4 teams, so time to meet our 3 judges. First, Professor Joshua Park. He is a member of the Executive Committee of the World Schools Debating Championships. Next, we have Professor Kang Yong-seung from Yonsei University Law School. And we're also joined by Professor Jan Gallus from the Philippines, who is the director of the Asian Debate Institute. And last but not least, we are joined by 50 audience judges, students from Seongnam Foreign Language High School. Hello and welcome to our show. Our audience judges will give feedback in the form of green lights, which they will turn on when they agree with the speaker. All right, let's check out the motion for today's debate.
Voluntary euthanasia is the practice of intentionally ending a life in a painless manner. It can quickly and humanely end a patient's suffering and terminal pain, allowing them to die with dignity. However, some claim that euthanasia and assisted suicide leads to suicide contagion, which is a rejection of the importance and value of human life. Will voluntary euthanasia allow individuals to die with dignity, or will it be just mercy killing? This House would legalize voluntary euthanasia.
We live in an age where we can control almost every aspect of our lives, from when and who we marry to what sort of work we do and until when. So what about death? Should we be able to choose when and how we die? What about the right to die with dignity? That sounds like the makings of a debate, so let's have it. First, the Prime Minister. Please step up to the podium.
many people would be the opposite side of the voluntary euthanasia. They say that euthanasia is kind of murder and could be misused in criminally. However, we, the government, are standing for legalizing voluntary euthanasia by suggesting 5 reasons. First of all, euthanasia makes patients comfortable. Sympathizing with pain is very hard unless we personally experience the pain. So we could not exactly know the pain of critical patients. When we see them, maybe we would think they are not suffering because they are not moving. But actually, even though the patient is vegetable, they are suffering mentally. We have to allow euthanasia to reduce the patient's pain. Second, cost using in life conservation is enormous. It will make sense if the patient could be healthy by the treatment. But if the treatment is for only extending the life, it makes no sense. Also, it needs a lot of money to extend the life. So, treatment will be a financial burden to family. Third, paradoxically, euthanasia can save someone's life. Patient who is dead by euthanasia can donate the organ to sick people. So, we can not only reduce the pain of the crucial patient, but also spare one's life. And the fourth and last reason is the counterargument of the opposite side. The opposite side of the euthanasia says that euthanasia is a kind of murder. But I think euthanasia and murder is basically different. Murder gives the pain to the victim, but in the other hand, euthanasia is one's pain. Also, the opposite side will say that it is not moral to kill a person without patient's opinion. But it is important that our topic is not just euthanasia, but voluntary euthanasia. I think we should respect one's choice. In conclusion, I assume that euthanasia system is not perfect. However, as I have mentioned, euthanasia could reduce patients' pain and lessens the family's financial burden and saves one's life by donating organs. And to emphasize one more time,
Sir.
yes.
You said it's a voluntary euthanasia. Then how can people in the vegetation state make a volunteering to take euthanasia or not?
So I say that I assume that euthanasia system is not perfect by this reason. But if we
That's okay.
if we make sorry, I know it is not perfect because of the reason, but if we
That's okay. If you can try to explain it in other words, maybe.
so I think it is important to gain the person's opinion before the accident. And to emphasize one more time, euthanasia is not a murder, and we have to respect one's choice. For these 5 reasons, the government is on the pros of the voluntary euthanasia. Thank you.
Okay, that was the Prime Minister arguing for the motion, arguing that governments should allow voluntary euthanasia. One of the issues raised was that allowing people to die with dignity is kinder than forcing them to continue their lives in pain. You may take your seat. Okay, let's see how many of our audience judges agreed with the Prime Minister. 16 out of 50. Okay, let's see if our leader of opposition can do better. Please step up to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, we the opposition side strongly believes today's motion to not be passed understands that sanctity of life cannot in any way be neglected, and also it's the government's responsibility to make the every one of the citizens' lives as an important value. But before moving on to my speech, I would like to make some rebuttals to the previous speaker. First of all, they said that euthanasia can help those patients who are suffering to gain comfort. However, we believe that comfort of the patient cannot be the reason for the patients to give up their lives that easily. Lives are something that should be valued as the first priority. And because today's debate is a policy debate, not a value debate, we believe that policy should be made rationally, not irrationally, because of just the reason of the patient suffering. And next is they said they extended this argument with the patients being healthy again. We believe that they are conveniently ignoring the patient who are in a vegetable state, who has the possibility to gain their health again. Those who are in the vegetation state do have a little possibilities to gain their health again. So by that, when neglecting this and encourage those patients to get euthanasia, we believe that can lead to a misuse. And third of all, they said that voluntary euthanasia. We believe, as I said in my POI, we believe today's policy itself is a flaw because those people who are in the euthanasia, who take euthanasia, are people who have to be in the state of vegetation, who cannot really do not really have a conscious state, which means that it's really hard for them to volunteer whether or not to take euthanasia or not.
Point of information.
No, thank you. So moving on to my speech, we have 2 arguments to support our team's stance. First is about the government's role regarding to the sanctity of life. And second is about the realistic harms and the side effects of today's policy. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's debate, the government and the opposition believes that it is the citizens that should be the first priority and the utmost value. However, we want to then ask a question if opening the patient's right to die and encouraging euthanasia even as their last resort is really what the government should do for their citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, our government's responsibility in today's debate is not to encourage death to those patients, but to show them that their lives are something that should not be given up, and something to treasure even in their worst situation, and also to practice this value. However, today's policy is totally against the message that the government has to deliver to their citizens. Then I would like to prove why sanctity of life is important and how it can go upon the patient. Nowadays, suicide is a big issue. By that, we government are giving educations, are making campaigns, and even making commercials to always inform the basic right for the people to live. The sanctity of life, to every citizen, we say it is the sanctity of life. When ignoring this, we say and ignoring this and encourage them to do euthanasia, we say it is the same as encouraging them to suicide.
Why, sir?
Yes.
Are you saying that suicide is like euthanasia?
Of course, and I would like to explain that in my argument. So I would like to explain why suicide can be same as euthanasia. Because euthanasia, even though it is voluntary choice, it is an irrational choice because of their just suffering, as they said. They suffer, and that's the reason why they make euthanasia. Patients make this decision only for the reason to end their sufferings. Then suicide. People commit suicide with their own choice, such as today's policy. And why do they make suicide? Is because they want to end their sufferings in their daily lives. But when we government allow euthanasia, when we government allow euthanasia, and when we government on the other side try to prevent people from committing suicide, we say that's a huge irony, and this is totally an absurd argument. However, ladies and gentlemen, we want to inform all the floor members that we are not neglecting the pain of the patients that end their sufferings. However, we believe that it is the basic duty of the government to rescue people from making inadequate death, and believe it is morally right for us, the government, to not pass today's policy. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're really proud to prove today's argument, which was government's role regarding to the sanctity of life, and I'm very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, that was the leader of opposition arguing against the motion, so arguing that government should not legalize voluntary euthanasia.